the most recent update, or it's still to come how it's going to be implemented, but is the option to go back and fix some mistakes in payment history. And that would be the ability to buy back credit towards student loan forgiveness. This comes from the idea of holding harmless the borrower right now. If there was a period of time where they could have had either a $0 payment or a low payment, that they want to allow you to go back and make those payments to get credit towards PSLF, or even the extended forgiveness amount if you were on that track 20 or 25 years. But right now, where you can find information on that, there's no like, hey, here is how to buy back credit. There's not a process yet, but it's
No
showing up
formulas.
in the frequently asked credits on public service loan forgiveness at StudentAid.gov. I'm looking at it right now, and it talks about how if you had a period of deferment or forbearance that was not covered by the payment count adjustment, and that is something we'll probably touch on here real quick, you may want to consider a buyback. So if you have a single month or multiple months of payment history that don't count because you were in forbearance or deferment, and you want to make a qualifying payment, you can go back and make an extra payment to get credit for it. So that's really exciting to see, because there are a lot of times.
Yep.
Daniel, what have you seen with, especially those you mentioned right at the beginning, this crowd being informed on student loans? But what about somebody that just came to you, they're finishing up residency, and what are some of the more common, maybe mistakes that you see, and you would like to say, man, it would be nice if we could go back and fix that?
Yeah, that's got to be top of the list. Is we'll say in the top 5 is missed payments. And usually, man, it's been so long since like these actually were issues, because everybody's been making their $0 payments automatically. But before all that, I would go to look at your student loan transcript. So if I'm working with someone, we ask for the student loan transcript, basically, that's like shows all your history. And it was almost like clockwork. Almost every time, like maybe 8 out of 10 of them, they would have like in order payment. And then it would be like 12 months. And then it would be like forbearance, 2 months or 1 month. And then repayment, another 10 months. And then forbearance. So there was these forbearance periods sprinkled in every 12 months for like 2 months worth, 1 to 2 months. It was almost like clockwork every time we would see that. And the reason was because the deadlines were unclear, and people were busy, and just people were missing income certification deadlines and getting put into forbearance, and forbearance was not counting for PSLF. So it was like tossing money out the window, basically. That's the way I viewed it for PSLF purposes, because you're making like super low payment relative to in practice. So if you're making $100 payment a month, and then like your in practice payment is going to be like $2,000, and you're going for PSLF, the way I view it is it's like throwing $1,900 a month of every month of that is like $1,900, throwing it out the window. So it seems like in the case of most of these examples of these mistakes, in fact, I need to go pull this up. I wrote an article a really long time ago about the top mistakes people make with student loans. And I feel like maybe on almost all of them, the government has allowed people to fix them. Like they've kind of said, all right, we'll let this be like a get out of jail free card, like on the missed payments or consolidation or whatever. So this is the kind of the last one, I think, or maybe there's more in the future, but this was definitely a very common mistake of missed payments. And it's a good thing for people, but I think going forward, not a lot of people are going to miss payments. It's automated better now, and it's hard to miss it. But I think it's going to be a huge win for some of you that have had some missed payments in the past that you can kind of get cleaned up potentially for a low cost. It's like, if the government's going to sell you a PSLF payment for $100, I'll buy as many as they want to sell me, all day long.
Yeah, I think in the past, I've heard you talk about PSLF payments as golden tickets. And you need 120 golden tickets. So yeah, the cheaper you can get your golden ticket, the better. That's a great example too, by the way, that in and out of forbearance as you're certifying income. I didn't even think of that one. That's really good. Yeah. Can I share another one that I thought of initially? Was you get out of med school, payments are going to start, and your first inclination is, I can't afford these payments. And I see a whole lot of deferment right out of the gate. So you had maybe 6 months of grace period, and then you're like, I can't pay this. You called your student loan servicer, and now you're in an economic hardship forbearance that maybe if you would have had the payments done based on your tax return or not having income while you were in med school, it would have been a $0 payment anyway,
Mm.
or something low, like Daniel said, like $100 a month. But yeah, the opportunity to go back and buy back some of that credit could be huge for the right person. Hopefully, so when I came to this conversation, I think of it in terms of probably the audience we're talking to who is proactively informing themselves on some of these options and thinking that this is just a way to go back and help prior to, getting excited and into student loans, that there was an issue like that.
Right. But think about it like this, though. I think most of you all listening is in that category. But I would also say all of you are tempted, like all of us are, for things. So I'll go down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I think it'll be relevant. Like, let's say a mortgage lender is talking to one of you in training, and you're like, say you're in your second year, and they're like, oh, well, I know there's this provision in student loans where you can buy back your payments later. And I know you're currently making a $300 a month payment right now, but like really you could stop making those and buy those back at a later date. And by doing that, it will allow you to buy a house that's $100,000 more, or like that has an extra bedroom, because I know you want that. I mean, that's a very tempting, or like the car scenario. Like, you can come up with all different kind of tempting scenarios that now we're starting to talk about a challenging decision. The part of where I came up with that mortgage scenario is
Yeah.
the lenders used to sell the idea of like, we're not going to look at the student loans, but you need to get into forbearance. Like, they kind of like talk people into going into forbearance back in the day. So there was a lot of that like lending practices going on that they were like saying, they were basically talking first year residents into going into forbearance so that they could qualify for the house. And a ton of people did. So I would just be careful with this whole buying
Yeah.
back.